I was 16 when he first began to hit me. I didn't think that I was worth anything because he told me that I wasn't. I didn't think that I would be able to get away because he told me that I couldn't. And for 13 years, I stayed in that relationship. I left him many times. He beat me. He threatened me with guns. He broke my teeth. He did many things to me. And one day, I decided that I needed to leave. It took a long time, and many people helped me along the way. But I decided that I could no longer stay in the relationship with him, because even though I loved him and he promised that he wouldn't beat me again, he still continued to beat me and he wasn't changing, so I had to change. And I changed, and I said when I left him that I would never again allow anyone else to abuse me.
Una noche yo salí, cuando regresé a la casa, él estaba dentro de la casa, trató de matarme, él me disparó con una BB gun. Yo corrí a llamar a mi hija la mayor, pero ella estaba en shock porque yo le grité que su papá había tratado de matarme. La mediana vino, me defendió porque él me siguió hasta el cuarto con un cuchillo, me dio en la cabeza, él me siguió cortando, me cortó mi cara, me cortó otras partes de mi cuerpo. La niña mediana llamó a la hermana para que no vieran. Y yo me quedé, ella me defendió, ella fue la que me lo quitó, y ella le dijo, si tú quieres matar a alguien, mátate tú. En eso llegó la policía, él me dejó, él me soltó, pero yo lo único que pedía, aún con sangre en mi cara, en mi cabeza, en mis manos, yo pedía que mis hijas no me vieran en el suelo, no caerme. Y en eso llegó la policía, yo me salí corriendo y al momento reaccioné a mis hijas y volví hacia atrás, pero el policía me dijo ya no puedes entrar. Y de ahí mis hijas se quedaron dentro, pero él me dijo no te preocupes, todo está bien. A mí me preocupaban mis hijas. Él ahora está en la cárcel hasta el día de hoy. Todo esto fue difícil, duro. Yo salí del hospital en 2 días, gracias a Dios estoy bien. Ahora esta experiencia me sirvió para yo salir adelante. Estoy en varios programas donde estoy ayudando o me ayudó a ayudar a mi hija, la más pequeña.
I was in bed, it was 1 o'clock in the morning, and I just hear rumbling through the house, and I woke up very scared, and I could hear my sister screaming and my mom struggling, and I just ran into the room, and there was my dad beating on my mom. And then out of nowhere I see him get this air rifle out, and my heart just dropped, thinking I have to take it away. And once I took it away, I had to leave my mom alone. And as I passed over the rifle to my sister, I turn around and there's my mom and on a chokehold by my dad, and I couldn't even see her face, it was covered in blood. He then reached over to the sink and grabbed a knife and was about to start stabbing her in the head, and me, I ran over, and there we were, the 3 of us all struggling. But I finally was able to get my mom free, and she ran behind me and stood there. And I told my father, pointing the knife at him, "You're not gonna kill my mom. You could kill yourself, but you can't kill my mom." And I was covered, not even in my own blood. There's tears, not even mine, all over. And there were screams everywhere in the house.
What I remember, or what really broke the straws, camel's back, is that my mom, till this day, approaching 70, has a wound, a shotgun wound in her belly from my dad trying to kill her. It was pretty traumatic when it was that age. I vaguely remember some of the things, but I do remember my mom in the hospital, and her coming out many years afterwards telling me that when I was older, that if that bullet would have went an inch to the right, she probably wouldn't have been here till this day. And so it's, every time I see her, my mom and I are very close. So, I see her undressed. I see this this tattoo, I guess you could say, that makes me very angry as a child and as a daughter. The night we escaped I was 8. I remember Mom in the middle of the night tapping me on my back, and I was asleep, and she said, "We have to go." And my mom and I are very close, and so I remember not questioning her, and we had one bag, and we left on foot. And I asked her where we were going, and she said, "I will tell you later." And her best friend, who I adore dearly, had literally a getaway car and took us away from the house. We had no idea where we were going to go, what our next step was going to be, but she knew she needed to get the hell out of there. And enough was enough, and to save not only her, but her daughter. So I remember us going into a place, it was a shelter actually here in Washington, D.C., known as House of Ruth. And that was our first night away from our dad. I remember flashbacks of her being terrified, not knowing if he was going to find us, if this is going to be permanent, what our next step would be. But I remember us staying there for quite a bit until we were able to find some safe options through my mom's best friend, where he couldn't find us. Of course, she couldn't stay with her because he knew about where she lived, but there were a tremendous support network that also included my father's brothers, who basically disowned him before his behavior to try to help my mom and myself escape and have a safe place. So our journey without him started then, and the unknown of where our next step was quite terrifying, but as my mom said, quite liberating. And the risk was far more rewarding than being in the state that we were inside the house. So till this day, my courage and my strength come from her, and also shows that her and I both don't tolerate a whole lot of nonsense from anyone because of this experience.
I was only 19, so full of knowledge, yet so naive. I made the most terrible mistake of my life because I failed to heed flashing red lights that so vividly presented themselves. Without hesitation, I married an abuser of the worst kind. He had the propensity for murder. Oh, but I was quickly reminded of my ignorance as I fell deeper and deeper into the darkness of the isolation, the total control, and the complete loss of my soul. It wasn't until I looked into the mirror one day that I realized I was lost. The person who coldly stared back at me wasn't anyone I even recognized. I knew the person in that mirror was a mere fragment of who I used to be. Attempt number 7 to save myself was within minutes away, but as I awaited my escape, I received one of the worst beatings I'd ever gotten, and I experienced the terror of having my long hair set on fire from matches lit by my abuser. At that moment, I knew for sure he'd reached his plateau. He was going to kill me. If I failed to get away, I would just be another statistic, a victim to my abuser, one without a voice, one without the ability to be here and tell you what I'm telling you today. Was it worth staying to die? It all of a sudden became crystal clear to me, no. It was crucial for me to flee. Even if I fled to the unknown, it was better to flee to unknown without ever looking back. There was no other way. For I am a survivor.
The last incident of domestic violence that I had is when the father of my 2 boys hit me and punched me. He broke my lip. He even tried to kill me. He even tried to kill my boys. That was the last time that he put his finger on me. I realized that I had to do something, and I just go away. By now, I encourage and I empower the voice of women who has problems or issues of domestic violence to speak up. You are not alone. Raise your voice to end domestic violence.